Hi, everybody. This is David O'Dea with O'Dea Schneider PLLC. In military trials, one of the most misunderstood rules of evidence is Rule 404B. It deals with prior acts, things the accused may have done before, and whether the jury can hear about them. Here's the starting point. Generally, jurors or panel members are not allowed to hear about someone's past just to argue they're a bad person or they did it before, so they must have done it again. That's exactly what the rule is designed to prevent. Convictions are supposed to be based on evidence from this case and not assumptions about one's character. But Rule 404B recognizes that sometimes prior acts do matter and can be brought in limited circumstance. And the rule lists specific reasons why this kind of evidence may come in. Prior acts may be admitted to show things like motive, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, or absence of mistake or accident. Let's break that down with a couple examples. If the accused said, quote, "This was just an accident," the government may try to bring in a prior act that looks very similar to argue that it wasn't an accident at all. If the defense claims the accused had no knowledge of a certain process, prior conduct showing experience in that area could be used to show that they did in fact have knowledge. Or if the question is one of identity, who committed the act, prior conduct with a very distinct signature might come in to prove it was the same person. Now, even when the government tries to introduce prior acts for one of these proper purposes, the judge doesn't automatically let it in. The judge has to weigh it under Military Rule of Evidence 403, the balancing test. That means looking at whether the evidence is truly probative, meaning that it actually proves something important, versus whether it risks unfair prejudice. Prejudice here doesn't just mean it hurts the accused. Almost all government evidence, in theory, can do that. But prejudice means, does it unfairly tip the scales, distract the jury, or tempts them to convict for the wrong reason? So the judge has to ask, does the prior act really help prove something, like motive or intent? Or is it just painting the accused as a bad person? If the unfair prejudice outweighs the value, it must be excluded. There's also procedural safeguards in military courts. The government has to give the defense notice if they plan to use 404B evidence. They can't just spring it on the accused in the middle of trial. That gives the defense time to prepare, time to argue against it, or to show why it doesn't meet the balancing test. Why does all this matter? Because prior acts can be powerful. Think about it. If a jury hears that someone did something similar before, it's hard to not assume they probably did it again. That's why courts are so cautious. Used properly, 404B evidence can provide context, show intent, or disprove an innocent explanation. Used improperly, it can completely overwhelm the case and lead to a wrongful conviction based on character instead of facts. In the end, Rule 404B is about fairness and balance. It's designed to protect the accused from being judged by their past while still giving the court a way to consider prior acts when they truly matter to the issue in the trial. It reminds everyone that trials are about evidence, not reputation, and that justice demands keeping that distinction clear. Thank you so much.